What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Christian Witch Podcast. I'm your host, Chosen, also known as @ChristianWitchHTX, over on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You can find me on Twitter at Christian Witch not HTX, Christian Witch X on Twitter. Or you can go to my website, ChristianWitchHTX.com, to find all of this fun stuff. I'm a certified professional psychic medium, host of this podcast, and I also own an academy called the Elysium Academy of Mystical Arts, where I train people in witchcraft, healing, psychic development, mediumship, all kinds of mystical arts. I am also the associate pastor of an online group of about 11,000 people called Christian Witch in the Craft. If you are interested in looking for community, you can always go there as well. But this podcast is definitely a place for us to build community together as well. And you can kind of like and connect with each other on like the Instagram account at Christian Witch HTX, or just wherever else. I'm thinking about doing like a Facebook group or something, so maybe that's a good idea. I don't know. Anyways, just thought I would throw that out there in my little introduction. Again, I'm a certified professional psychic medium, and I do this full time. I am joined here by my co-host, Lux from Intuitive Therapy by Lux, and I want to tell you about a couple of events that are coming up. And then Lux is going to introduce herself. So Lux will be there. I'm going to be at Austin Witch Fest on March 4th, reading all day long. It's a wonderful festival for witches and mystics and occultists and everything. Come out and see us in Austin, get a reading, or just stop by, give us a hug, tell us how you're doing. And then also we have our spring cycle of the 15-week training in witchcraft, healing, and psychic development starting on March 20th. We just kicked off our winter cycle. And if you want to get on the wait list for the spring cycle, go to ChristianWitchHTX.com and go to the Elysium Academy tab, where you can check out the full 15-week curriculum and get an overview of what you'll be learning. And then we also have healing courses and mediumship courses launching this spring as well. Again, I can only take so many students per cycle for the 15-week training. So if you want on that list, now is the time. But yeah, other than that, we're going to be talking about red flags in relationships, and totally got tongue twisted there. But Lux, go ahead, introduce yourself. Let the people know where to come if they want to be enlightened, if they want to meet God themselves. No, I'm just kidding. Introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, this is Lux with Intuitive Therapy by Lux. I have a website, it's luxintuitive.therapy.com. There you can check out more information about me and my full list of services, but I'm also a professional psychic medium like Chosen is. I have an Instagram, Lux Intuitive Therapy, and I'm also on Twitter and Facebook and TikTok. You can find some content as well there. I don't post to TikTok very often anymore at all, but I still have a bunch of videos and stuff up if you want to get to know me a little bit better. So yeah. Oh, I also have a podcast called The Joy of Metaphysics.
Yes, she does.
There's a lot of, again, additional information there about me and beliefs and different things. So yeah.
Show is. So definitely go check her out. I will let you know right now, if you come to me for something and I don't offer it, I'm probably sending you to Lux. So that's how much I trust her. I go to her myself. So definitely check that out. Okay, we are talking about red flags in relationships. Okay, listen, guys. Valentine's season is upon us. Or Valentine season is upon us. Lupercalia, whatever they call it. Listen, if you know all of these things, how did you say this a minute ago to me, Lex? When I was like, listen, some of these things are a little like obvious, but sometimes they're not, and that's no offense if you don't know them. People don't know what they don't know. Okay.
Yeah. We wanted to make a list of red flags in relationships, because Lord knows we've had our fair share of relationships, and our fair share of red flags as well.
Situationships, relationships, ongoing family ties.
Yeah, I mean, we're all about spiritual growth here, I think. Like, both of us really are spiritually growth oriented. So a huge part of the spiritual journey is learning how to navigate relationships. And it's also a big topic that we get as psychic mediums too. Like, can you do a love reading? Is there such and such coming back? And how is this relationship going to turn out and everything like that? So we want to give our clients, but also you guys, the tools to maybe head these things off. So
yeah, at least recognize them
and stuff, and kind of answer these questions for ourselves. I know that I wish I knew a lot of these red flags sooner than I do now. But yeah, we have a list here. We're going to kind of go through them and talk about them. And
Yeah, we
Yeah.
also just did a podcast episode on relationships being free will
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago. So go check that one out. That was a really good one.
That's
People
great.
loved that one. Um, they love all of them, but no, I'm just kidding. I guess people can't see the fake hair flip, so it sounded a little rude. Anyways, I was just kidding. That was complete sarcasm. That was a good episode, though. Where should we start and what should we say?
Let's just start at the top. These are not in any particular order. They're pretty random. So we were just
Yeah.
brainstorming and we came up with a lot of them. So
Yeah.
first one, let's jump in. Not being heard or just having a lack of communication or even bad communication in the relationship.
Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, but like, sometimes you need to shut up and listen. And then other times you need to engage with the other person. The other person is not meant to entertain you. They are not meant to keep the conversation going. They're not meant to put forth all the effort it takes to create a relationship, to create a bond, to fill that void. I'm not saying that everyone has to be talking 24/7, but like, you gotta give a little bit. It can't just be like, let's see how they entertain me today, or vice versa.
Yeah, I agree with that. I remember there was a time in my life before I did a lot of healing work and I exhibited a lot of codependent behaviors, which we'll get into in a minute. I did think that like people were on this planet for my entertainment. Like I will freely admit that 100%.
Interesting.
So that's really interesting that you say that. But not being heard or being in bad communication, like I always tell my clients, open, honest, frank communication is the key to every successful relationship. Me and my partner have a rule: we don't go to bed angry for a variety of reasons, and when something is bothering us, we don't run. So if they're, addressing the problem as it comes by being open, honest, and frank communication, sitting the other person down and frankly explaining the situation how you say it, and doing an episode on communication in and of itself, like good communication, how to communicate effectively and properly, is like an episode in and of itself. But what I will say is that like vulnerability, compassion, empathy, and an open mind are the key attitudes when talking to somebody about anything.
That's some of the top advice I'm always giving is like vulnerability, intimacy, and being willing to be uncomfortable and communicate effectively is the most important thing you can do in a relationship. Like, and it's funny because, we've talked about this before, but like in readings and stuff, people can only be going through so many things at any given time in their life. Okay. And there's like, at some point they fall into like groups or categories almost. Mm-hmm. And so there's moments where we recognize, hey, like something must be going on, like something's in the air, so to speak, because I've given this same, like Spirit's given me the same message for someone like a couple times this week, and that's one of the ones I get like consistently throughout my career. That sounded so professional. Consistently throughout this ministry work is like they'll bring it up. They'll be like, no, vulnerability and communication and being effective and open. Like they're saying, like this is the key. This is what they need to do to work towards healing. Like they need to be, create an even playing field and allow the other one to feel safe doing so.
Yeah, so authentic, genuine connection is done through communication.
Yeah.
A big red flag in terms of communication for me is, and it's gone.
And it's gone? You forgot already? That's been happening to me lately. I'll have a wonderful thought and then, there it goes. It'll come back. Don't worry.
It will come back.
Yeah. Why don't we do this? Why don't we move on to the next one we have written down, and then hopefully that won't come out. But the next one is like extreme possessiveness, blowing up people's phones, demanding access to passwords. This, that's just a red flag in general because it indicates lack of trust.
Yeah. It's back.
It's back? What's the thought? Tell me the thought.
Having to ask other people how your partner feels about you.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. I have been in so many like friendships, relationships with people who are in a relation or like friendships with other people, you know what I'm saying? And like they're coming to me asking me like, well, how does this person feel about me? Or what did they say about me? Or what? It's like, hun, go ask them yourself. This is your partner. You guys should be able to, again, be frank, open, and honest enough and vulnerable enough to feel comfortable talking about literally anything. If you don't feel secure like in asking your partner how they feel about you, like sometimes you got to define the relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so that would be a red flag for me. It's not, again, same thing with bad communication,
Well,
like asking other people how
mhm.
so and so. This another thing is just this is another form to me of like emotional immaturity almost in a way. It's just
Mhm.
these are the things that I wish my mom told me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like these are the things that don't get said by teachers, by
Exactly. And
teachers.
again, people don't know what they don't know. Don't beat
Yeah,
yourself up over these things. But at some
exactly.
point it becomes your responsibility to learn these things
Yeah,
and to gain that intelligence and no longer be ignorant in certain areas. And I use that word in the most dignified sense. Like
right. Just
ignorance just
lack of
means you don't.
knowledge.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And you know that reminds me of one of the other points on this list is like similarly is like when you're having to hide the relationship from the people in your life, your people you're close to, like no one likes them. Like,
Yeah,
why do you feel the need to do that? Like,
exactly.
trust your gut. Like,
Yeah,
if you feel the need to like not tell anybody, it's different. So, like for instance, as a member of the LGBTQIAXYZ community, um, there's sometimes it's not safe to share with everybody. But like, if nobody knows, like, come on, like your friends should know.
yeah,
It's one thing to not tell your parents because they don't support you. It's another thing to like hide it from your best friend who knows everything about you, including like where your cycle's at, pretty much. Like
yeah,
it's like
yeah. That could also just be not an intimate relationship problem, but it could be a friendship problem too. Like you
correct.
feel like
Any relationship. These apply to any relationship, actually. Now that we talk
yeah,
about it,
yeah, it really does.
yeah.
That kind of leads into another red flag, which is I call candle blower outers.
What is that?
So it's like
Suck
you
the
have
joy out
this,
of everything.
yeah, you
Oh.
have this candle and you're so excited that your candle is lit and you're like, wow, look at this flame. It's amazing. And I'm like, it's not that cool. It's just
Mm,
people that are going to one up
yeah.
you. They're not supporting you in your flaming adventures or whatever. Like this can be intimate partners, but it also can be friendships. It can unfortunately it can be family members. And we have
100%.
to, another thing on this list is like lack of boundaries and things like that we'll get
Mm-hmm.
into, but yeah, blowing up the phone, extreme possessiveness or like controlling
Mm-hmm.
behavior, that blowing up the phone is a big red flag for me.
Mm-hmm.
I would get into relationships a lot where there's a lot of phone blowing up on both sides of the aisle.
Okay, so let's go ahead and let's clarify what we mean by this. It's not wrong to like talk to each other several times a day. It's wrong for like you not to answer one time because you're like in the restroom or something.
Right, or something, you're at
Or
work
something or
or
yeah, and then all of a
whatever.
sudden they're blowing it up, they're texting, they're calling, they're video chatting,
Yeah,
they're whatever they're doing.
like you didn't answer. Where
Yeah.
were you? What were you
That's what we're
doing?
talking
Like,
about being a major red
yeah,
flag.
it's like, dude, I was at work or I was in a meeting or I
I was
was
having an affair. I'm just
like
kidding.
I was doing, yeah, it's just again another sign of in my opinion, it's just another sign of codependency. It's
I
like
just realized I
it's
yelled
just
that into the mic.
it's not being able to trust your partner.
Yeah.
Another sign of emotional immaturity. Another reason someone would blow up the phone is like if you are fighting, and sometimes you just need to take the time to gather your thoughts, gather your emotions, assess the situation, process the situation. You need some time alone to, allow the situation to, play out.
Ooh, I'm having flashbacks.
Yeah, me too.
This is ooh, like
And
talk
they're
about emotional ignorance.
yeah, and then they're continuing to like blow up the phone, like, why are you answering me? You hate me, you don't love me
Subtweeting.
anymore.
That's
Or
another
like,
one.
oh my God. That is a huge red flag. Getting on social media,
Subtweeting. Ugh.
outing relationship problems on social media rather than going to your partner behind closed doors and speaking about things privately is a huge red flag.
Oh my gosh.
I've
Okay.
never experienced that personally, thank God. But yes, I see that happens a lot.
This is going to be so ridiculous, but there was this person I knew, and their best friend and them, like in high school, were super, like, just emotionally dependent on one another. And basically, they should have been in a relationship. Like, that's probably what it was, but neither of them were in the right place. And like when one would get mad, they would just start tweeting things. And like this was back in the day, like before like iPhones had just gotten apps and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So it's like the text or the tweets would be anytime you could set someone's tweets that you liked to go to your phone every time they tweeted. And so they would start tweeting things like little, we call it subtweeting, and they would tweet like, guess you don't care about me, or
Yeah.
like stuff like that.
Oh, I remember subtweeting very vividly.
Yes, yes. And it would just be like, so
Oh, I definitely engaged.
awful.
Yeah.
So awful. Oh my goodness. And like just fights. Never mind. Let's just move on. But
we're getting triggered over
I'm getting so triggered.
All right.
Okay, so controlling behavior, like smothering, which goes in line with what we're kind of saying already.
Yeah.
Not really allowed to have boundaries. You know, this is another one that someone I know is dealing with. A family member has just filed for divorce, and the partner, who is in law enforcement, is threatening divorce. Or not threatening divorce, threatening suicide as a manipulation tactic.
That's
leaving, taking the gun, leaving everything, no bag, just taking the gun, leaving notes where they could be found by their like 10-year-old kid. Like, just ignorance, just absolute ignorance. I mean, I'm sorry, like, and that's not to downplay suicide, but this is manipulation. And so that's another big red flag if you did not see that. But also at the same time, sometimes it can come across as genuine. Sometimes it can look like, oh, they're genuinely hurting and like, I'm the cause of this and like, I'm going to stay so that they'll live. Like, you are not responsible for anyone's decisions, and you are not responsible for their healing or their wholeness or their happiness or their reason to live, whatever it is. So like, that's another major red flag. And that's like one that's hard to kind of like get out of, depending on who it is and how it's coming across. But
yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, but yeah, controlling and manipulative. And another one's like humiliation, like little microaggressions, like where you like correct people or call out every little thing they do wrong instead of just like letting it go. Like there's a time and a place to be like, what? Like, but there's also like people that are just like, you said that wrong, or what? Like,
yeah, it's just like it's just taking people down.
Yeah,
it's like it's just taking people down a peg for like no reason. And it's most of the time I've seen that done is in a public setting. I mean, it's not fun whether it's in a public or private setting, but most of the time these people wait until they can do it in a public setting because it feels even worse. So
yeah.
Red flag.
Oh, I've done it in the past with like not even romantic relationships, just like, and I didn't realize that's what was happening. But like, for instance, like let's say there was just like tension and stuff going on, and
like subtweeting.
It's almost like subtweeting in your life. People be like, "What did you say?" Like, what? No, stop. Or like, it's just Anyways,
just petty shit.
Thank God for growth and development.
Thank God.
I know.
Okay, lack of empathy
for you or for others. Like if they cannot empathize with the way you're feeling or going through, like they don't have to get on their knees and cry with you every time, but like they have to at least respect and be able to hold space for your emotions. They can't just be like, oh, and check out and walk away every time you're going through it.
Yeah. And like ladies, we need to stop letting men off the hook, to be honest with you, because men do have the capacity to feel emotions.
100%.
Like, they 100% do. And we should not let them like get away with like, not having the capacity for empathy because, oh, I'm a dude, I don't feel emotion. And it's like, yes,
that's a lie.
That's a lie. And you absolutely do. And you do have the capacity to sit down with me in this and be a freaking human being.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys I've dated in the past, they think that makes them weak or whatever. They use it as an excuse to just generally like not have any compassion or tolerance. And really the thing is like they're just not that interested in me. It's really what, you know what I mean? Like it's just a superficial relationship. Someone who genuinely cares about you will genuinely care about the things you're going through and your emotions, and will genuinely have empathy and compassion for you.
That's another one. Lack of compassion for you or for the world. Like this is one that triggered me recently. And when I say triggered, I don't mean like sent me down a spiral, but just bothered me.
Yeah.
Somebody I was in communication with recently, we had some really bad weather come through, and I was just like, I feel so bad for the displaced and the homeless and the animals too. And they were just like, there are resources in place for them. and
Right.
they're being advertised all across the city. And I was like, I'm sorry, the homeless can just afford a flat screen TV? And what are they going to plug it into? What is it being advertised to? Like,
Yeah, I don't see that on billboards
yeah,
or
I don't see it. And
flyers or
not only that, a
anything.
lot of those places are corrupt or they're over full
Yeah,
or they don't have
they're just
capacity.
not
Yeah.
the best
Yeah.
places.
They're not the best places. And so it was just like, I immediately was just like, that is, like, I immediately think I knew at that moment I was just done. But like,
Yeah.
for the sake of like, you know,
I wouldn't
just,
say that this is like a red flag. I'd say it's something that can be improved upon, and a lot of people just don't know this. So bring it to their attention, and like hopefully they can fix the
mm-hmm.
problem.
But if
But
they
it's
can't, that's a
then
narcissistic sign.
you want to like I think not being in a growth mindset's a red flag personally.
Yeah.
Not being willing to take accountability for your own actions and make a change for the person that you love, or to try to better yourself would be. But a pink flag would definitely be like, pink flag would definitely be like someone brings um, emotions to you and they're trying to fix your emotions, like
Mm-hmm.
trying to fix the problem. So like for example, you bring a problem and I did this a lot of the men I dated did this a lot. My husband still does this sometimes, and I have to remind him like, hey, like I'm not asking you to fix me or fix this problem. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just telling you what's going on. I'm sharing.
Yeah.
And so being like someone who is empathetic to the person and not trying to like fix that person's problems,
Yeah.
not trying to like dry the tears and stop the person from crying. Now, offering a solution is cool, but like we have to have this like consensual method. Like if someone is sharing with me what's going on and blah, 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 like I'm not going to offer up unsolicited advice. And that's why I say
Mm-hmm.
this is a pink flag, because this isn't like this is something that can be fixed, and it's not something that a lot of people like know. But like proper communication is like if someone is sharing something with me, like my first thing should not be to jump to what I think the solution to their problem should be,
Mm-hmm.
because they may not give a fuck. Like they may
Yeah.
not care. Like
Yeah.
that's not why they're saying that. They don't want me to fix their problem. They're not asking for advice or feedback. Like they just are trying to share with me and open up and kind of process their emotions.
Yeah.
And so I try to ask people like, hey, do you want feedback?
You do that.
You know,
I've had to clarify that I always want your
see,
feedback.
I'm a person that typically always wants feedback as well. I'm not the type of person that's going to share anything if I'm not in a place for feedback. I just
Yeah.
clam up, and maybe that
Yeah.
cancer energy or whatever.
Also, red flag.
But
No, I'm just kidding.
I know a lot of people that just share things and they don't necessarily want feedback. They're just trying to like get it off their chest.
Yeah, I know. It's one of the things I've had to learn as I've developed and grown as an adult is like, oh, I'm not responsible for fixing everyone.
Exactly.
And then what does that actually look like? And actually, sometimes the best way to serve someone is just by listening,
Yeah.
just nodding, listening to what they have to say. Where like as before, like I felt like I had to fix it because this was the person I cared about, and like I needed to make sure that they were able to see the truth of the matter, or like I needed to let them know that so and so's opinion isn't what matter, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from like empathic ability as well as like always wanting to like protect
Just wanted to
and
heal
and
and make things
heal.
better. Yeah.
But then again, you have to learn boundaries.
Yeah,
This is what it is.
It comes from a good place, but it's kind of like the highway to hell is paved on good intentions type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it can really upset people that it's like, well, no one asked you. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, thanks for your unsolicited opinion.
Oh, thanks for your unsolicited story is what I would say, but that's just if I'm being petty.
I understand.
No, I'm just joking, you guys. We've been in a sassy mood all evening, so no, yeah, I completely get it. What did you say? Are you over here trying to read the list?
Yeah.
Oh.
You're trying to read the list, like, what's next one?
Well, not respecting your spiritual life is on there. That's again boundaries. Like, listen, if you don't believe in God, that's fine, but don't tell me and try to steal my faith and tear it apart. Like,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
This isn't necessarily a red flag.
That is the red flag.
For me, what I'm about to say is not necessarily
I was just
a red
teasing.
flag,
Go ahead.
but I would encourage whatever partner maybe it is a red flag. Someone who's not supportive. I would say that that's a red flag.
It's a red flag,
you
correct.
want someone to be supportive. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, if you were getting into a relationship with somebody, they don't necessarily have to be living the lifestyle, your witchy life or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But they should be sympathetic to the lifestyle. And
Yeah.
I believe that they should be supportive of the lifestyle. And I didn't understand that that was something that I need. Spirit showed me that that is something that you
Mhm.
need in a successful relationship. I would have never asked that from Spirit. Like, God,
Mhm.
send me somebody that is supportive of my lifestyle. I always thought, no, this is my thing. This is what I do. It doesn't really matter if they like support me or anything. But that's because I didn't understand what like actual support was. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like,
Yeah.
it's like being there for the person. It's like, you have to be with somebody who's willing to, I'm sorry, but like put up with your antics. Like,
Yeah.
willing to.
No, but I tell people this all the time. Relationships, you do not need to be entering any relationship with anyone who has not done a similar level of inner healing or spiritual development work that you have.
Yeah.
Because, like, here's the deal. Like, we talked about this earlier, like in our lives, sometimes not everyone can go to the levels you're going to. And every time the bus stops, somebody has to get on so someone else can get on, okay? And there's certain people that are moving in the same direction in life. And I'm ranting, I'm sorry. Rambling more, I'm not ranting.
You're right.
But like, this is exactly this, you're right. It's you have to have someone, and the Bible calls it being equally yoked. It's like understanding like that you're in a similar playing field, or at least this person's aware and doing their own thing, but like still working towards healing and wholeness, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's our sermon for the week. No,
that kind of goes back to growth mindset that we mentioned earlier.
Exactly.
100% agree.
Okay, not owning their energy and lack of responsibility. If somebody refuses to be like, you know what, you're right, or you know what, actually, I sounded completely hateful when I said that and I did not mean that. Like the little things all the way up to like just straight up denying like, oh, that wasn't me that wrecked your car, that was a stranger. Like, I don't know, something ridiculous. Like, have you seen people that like literally try to deny their responsibility for
Compulsive
everything?
liars?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, not just that, but like just like in general, like they're just like they will not take responsibility for anything.
Yeah.
It's always someone else's fault. I have a friend that does this.
This reminds me of denial is the river in Egypt. Have you not seen that? That's a TikTok sound.
That sounds hilarious.
Going around right now. It's funny.
I know someone in this world who, if they're at a restaurant or at an establishment and something comes out wrong, they will resort to the most basic logic things to try and demonstrate to the people why it really wasn't their fault. I'm sorry, the person I'm talking to's fault. It was the establishment's fault, because by basic logic, 2 + 2 should equal 4.
Right.
But it's really because they refused to take responsibility that they didn't communicate what they wanted effectively.
Okay, so they're gaslighting and manipulating and lying.
100%, but I didn't want to be mean. Yes, but like, but like in the most subtle, basic way. I'll give you an example. My other friend.
Sounds like narcissistic behavior.
It is, and they're working on it. They're working on it. They really are, and I'm so proud of them.
So that's a red flag. Narcissistic behavior is a red flag.
Yeah. Like an example would be like another person I know recently was at an establishment and ordered like a dessert online. Okay, I think it was a milkshake, and they added all these things into it, and it said add a topping, hot fudge. Okay, well they brought it out and it was mixed in. Well, like they were disappointed that it wasn't a topping on the top because it made the flavor of everything else just taste like fudge, which I understand. Which I understand. Okay. However, you have to think about the establishment you're going to and what they do with milkshakes. They just mix everything up.
Right.
And so instead of just saying, actually, I didn't realize this is what was going to happen, it was like, oh, it's mixed. Well, on the screen, it says topping. So a topping goes on top, like acting like they're just ignorant and not getting it. And I'm just like, just communicate that you did not realize that they were going to mix it up. Granted, they shouldn't have mixed it up, but they did. Just say, I'm sorry, I did not realize this is how you were going to make it. Can I please have it remade? And can I have the topping on top instead of mixed in? You know, like that would be more effective communication, right? This one's just like staring at them like they're completely just ignorant and pointing out basic facts and hoping that they connect the dots.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, but like when we're talking about it, but in the moment, I'm just like, these poor people probably feel so uncomfortable.
Yeah, that it's To me, that's passive behavior.
I
Just like
agree.
not being able to, again, effectively communicate one's needs in an open, frank, honest
Yes.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's a
like,
perfect example of like how, because I've seen partners communicate in that way too. It's like, you didn't do the dishes.
well, how did I know you
It's
wanted me to
like,
do the dishes? Well, I left them there. Like,
there was dishes dirty.
so you should
It's
just
like, okay, are
assume.
you upset about me? Like, let's talk about this in a frank
Hmm.
way. Like, don't beat around the bush. Like, be
Yeah.
open, honest, and frank.
And again, people can be working on these things, and you could have friends, family, whatever that you love and do spend time with
Yeah.
that have issues. Okay, we're not saying like cut everyone out of your life. We're just saying like be aware of what's not acceptable,
Yeah.
and like just try not to enable that behavior, and also know when to put in boundaries. You know, for instance, I love that person dearly. Like, would totally lay down my life for them. But I also recognize where there can be some improvement, where I'm sure they could recognize where there could be improvement in my life too. So, um, yeah. So I guess what's the next one on the list? Keeping secrets, not real. Oh, okay, so I wrote these notes. Sorry, obviously they don't make sense. And we kind of touched on this already, but vulnerability, intimacy, sharing, like it's you don't have to tell them everything about your life, but like for instance, if you're in a serious relationship and you live together and they're gone for days at a time, like that's a major secret. Like what's happening there, right? Um, and like if you're always taking phone calls and like just suspicious behavior, like keeping secrets like that. It's not like, oh, I'm not ready to talk about this dark time in my life. We're not talking about those kind of secrets.
Mm-hmm.
And we hope that you can work towards that and work through that. But we're talking about like just keeping secrets in general. Because it's not real intimacy. Like intimacy is into me, you see. You know, like you're welcome in, and you can just you can experience me in my fullness.
Yeah.
As if, well, you are some handcrafted cosmic masterpiece. But yeah, that's just like one of the things that popped up on my list. And then also like I wrote this down, but it's not, and you could speak to this as well, obviously. But addiction can be a red flag as well. Like when people are not wanting to get help.
Yeah.
It's one thing to be like, oh, like, hey, I'm a recovered addict, or like, this is an issue for me, or like, hey, I'm, whatever it looks like, I'm 2 years clean, and like this is just where my past is. That's not a red flag. The red flag is like, hey, sorry, I was like high for 3 days.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
100%. I want to speak to like keeping secrets, or not having like
Mm-hmm.
legitimate intimacy.
For sure.
Like a big red flag would be for me, why do I feel like I need to keep secrets? Why do I feel like I can't open up to this person? Why I can't be vulnerable? Is there emotional security involved in the relationship? Because then it's like, why don't I feel emotionally secure in this relationship? Is there, judgment going on? Is there shame going on? Is there just a lot of codependent behaviors that would, if I were completely honest and open with who I am, I wouldn't feel safe in doing so. I would feel like it would get used against me, or, yada yada. So yeah, and then obviously, if I felt that somebody was like keeping secrets or not telling me, big things and things like that, like of things that was going on with them, but um, you know, this I don't want this to seem like, oh well, this person like not opening up, that's a red flag, because we all have our trauma and we're
Mm-hmm.
all on our own
Yeah.
healing journey. And like I'm not trying to out him, but like, my husband is on a healing journey with that particular thing. He and I both have struggled with compartmentalizing emotions in the past, and he's also been through things as well. And so a red flag would be like if I didn't give him space and again smothered him or tried to force him to take those steps that he's not necessarily ready to take yet. So this can go a lot of different ways. Trusting your gut and really developing intuition and self love and listening to your body, because our bodies tell us when the relationship is not good. I remember one of my like
Mm-hmm.
earliest signs that like the relationship was not good was like I would get this sick to my stomach feeling like whenever I would think about them. And it's like I would still be in relationships with people and I'm like feeling sick to my stomach,
Oh, no, no,
feel like
no.
like thinking about my partner, like that's red flag.
Yep.
Like,
Red
red flag.
flag.
So, but see, I didn't know this stuff. Now on addiction, yeah. So, uh, this is coming from somebody who heavily works with people in addiction, who has had addiction issues in the past. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Like, this is what I tell people who come to me who have spouses, siblings, like
Mm-hmm.
family members, whatever, who are struggling with addiction. You have to have firm boundaries and you have to uphold them. And sometimes enabling is actually, most of the time, enabling is the worst thing that you can do for an addict. So a lot of the times you have to have firm boundaries, and you removing yourself from that person's life or removing them from your life may just be the bottom that that person needs, the wake up call that that
Mm-hmm.
person needs in order to get help.
Yeah.
So yeah, addiction would be a red flag. Do not ever think that you have to stay with somebody through their addiction.
Yeah.
When somebody is struggling with something like that, you really need to prioritize yourself first and foremost, and understand that you cannot save them or fix their addiction issue.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but there is nothing on this God's green earth that you can do or say to this person to get them to want to stop. And that is the hard, sad truth of it. Um, Addicts have to get to a point where they are ready to quit. And a lot of the times they have to lose everything and hit a bottom in order for that wake up call to come. And that's the sad reality of it. Again, I've got experience with this, I've seen it over and over. And if you are in a relationship with somebody who's struggling with substance abuse, you have to prioritize yourself and your needs first. Do not stay in a relationship hoping that this person will get sober. I believe that everybody can recover if they are willing and they want to, but do not stick around for that to happen. Addiction is an ugly, ugly disease. And the thing is, with when you're addicted to drugs or alcohol, you don't have the capacity to love something more than those substances. And that is the mental illness of this. It's a really sad and horrible hellscape to live in. And you have to prioritize yourself through this. And I know that that sounds harsh, but you are not more powerful than their addiction. I'm sorry. Um, Only some sort of only they can save themselves. And so, if you are in a relationship with somebody like that, they can cause a lot of harm, and that doesn't mean that they're a bad person,
Yeah.
but they have a mental issue that needs to be dealt with. And if it's not, it can get really out of hand and people can get really hurt. And so please save yourself a lot of pain and heartache, and just get out. Just get out.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, like that's just real advice. That's just, there's really not much to say in
No.
addition to that, other than yes, it's hard. But you have to also understand that it's two people's safety and well being. And in order to love them the way you think that you need to, that means putting yourself first, because you can't love others well unless you love yourself well first.
Yeah.
That means removing yourself from incorrect, harmful situations.
Yeah.
And in doing so, you'll be showing them the love that they need.
Of course, there are nuances to the situation. Example, if you're married to the person, if you have kids involved, if you have a life with this person and this issue has developed, these are all nuanced situations. If the person wants to get help and you want to help them to get help, and stay with them through trying to get help, that's a totally different story. If the person is trying to get help, has a growth mindset, is trying, you know what I'm saying,
Working towards it
working towards
actively.
it. I know how much of a struggle it is for people to get serious about getting sober, though, and there can be many relapses in the process. At some point you may have to draw the line. I'm getting out of this marriage and I'm taking the kids and I'm tired of putting up with this, and that's your decision. Sometimes they get sober and they get help and you live happily ever after. Sometimes you don't. Um, it's just the sad reality of the situation. So, but
It is a sad reality.
yeah, it's pretty much it's like the only disease or illness that like affects other people. It sickens other people, not just it sickens the whole family. It's a terrible, terrible thing. Anyway,
yeah.
Out of that,
shake that off.
Shake that out.
Okay, so we're gonna bust through the rest of these really quick.
Next one is
so lack of balance, one-sided compromises, people making impactful decisions on your behalf. So that's important. We talked about that earlier a little bit. Controlling, also like lack of boundaries, bad communication, but especially like when you are constantly having to be the one to compromise.
Yeah.
That is not acceptable. Red flag.
Yeah. Or if you feel like, you're putting in too much effort. You know what I mean? Like relationships are not 50-50. They are 100%. So
exactly.
You should be putting in equal.
Two halves don't make a whole, two wholes make a functioning pair.
Everybody should be doing the best that they can in a relationship. So, bored or no connection, feeling like there's no connection or feeling bored. Yeah, that's definitely a red flag. Like, I feel like if you're not interested in the person that you're dating, that's a big red flag, you know? So
100%. For me, I literally just did this. Guys, I was so bored. Like, no connection. Like, couldn't even think of a thing to say other than, oh, okay. Great. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. What's on your mind? Like, praying to God something would spark a conversation. Because I knew that I could not think of anything to say.
Yeah.
Because they're just, like, and here's the deal. Like, we were comfortable with each other. Everything else worked decently. It's just like, and we weren't moving further or connecting or bonding because we literally were not able to like have a conversation. Like, it was just bored. Yeah. There really wasn't a connection. Don't like, it's one thing to like, people are shy and then they open up. It's another to just make excuses for someone not giving in a relationship. Yeah. And like, I honestly dragged that on for a couple weeks longer than I probably should have because I was trying to make sure that I wasn't overanalyzing or that I wasn't the one that wasn't giving. Yeah. But yeah, anyways. So yeah, if you're bored, that should be a red flag. Like, you should want to see someone. And I've had other people try to tell me, that, what I was going to say. I've had other people try to tell me that, like, they would ask me, they'd be like, okay, but are you bored or is it just like not dramatic or toxic? And I'm like, first of all, that is kind of insulting that you're asking me that. But since I know your heart, I don't know you're not asking me this. By the way, there was one person out there that did ask me this, and I know for 100% fact that they were not being insulting. So if you're listening, lover, I know exactly who you are. So, and I don't, this was not you. I wasn't talking about that. So, but they were like, is it just that it doesn't look dramatic or unhealthy and so you're not interested? Which I get. People, that's what people, people have issues with thinking that that's what a functioning relationship looks like, or like if there's no passion or fighting, like there's no, I'm like, yeah, that's not true.
That's a red flag.
That's a red flag too. But also so is being bored. Okay. So don't try to dismiss it as that. Okay. What's the next one?
Next one is, okay, lack of gratitude or appreciation. I see so many relationships lacking these two things. And I'm not talking about like the surface level, like telling people thank you for every little thing that they do or expressing gratitude. Like, that's really nice. I'm talking about like on the deepest level, understanding that the person who you are going home to every day or the person that you are dating, it is absolutely a privilege that they are in your life every single day. So it's not taking the other person for granted, and it's understanding that you do not have any right to this person at all. They are their own person. And furthermore, you don't need another human being to make yourself whole and complete. A relationship should be a cherry on top of your life. It should be an extra special something that makes life a little bit sweeter, but your life
Mm-hmm.
should taste sweet the way that it is. So I have another one on here. It's like not being able to be alone. Um, this is not necessarily such a red flag inside the relationship as it is for someone who is looking to get into a relationship.
Yeah.
If you have trouble being alone, that's a red flag. You
Yes.
need to possibly do a little bit more work, start engaging in some self-care, some self-love, and understanding, why do I need another person? Why do I need a relationship to make myself feel whole? I firmly believe that me and my husband don't fight because we are always like under the impression that this person is in my life, like it is a pleasure that she's in my life. She does
Mm-hmm.
not have to be here. And even though we're married now, we still have this mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have the mindset of like, she could not be here tomorrow. And it's not a fear mindset. It's like knowing that like my husband knows his worth and I also know my worth. And we are not going to put up with having a partner that doesn't know our worth. Do you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying?
Yeah.
And values us and is appreciative of us. And so we are consistently trying to like work towards a relationship or work things out, because when you value your partner to that extent, like you don't want to fight with them. And when
Yeah.
you do get into fights and arguments, you want to clear those up like really quickly. Like you don't want to stay, you don't even want to be mad at that person, because
Mm-hmm.
it's like, why am I even being mad? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so, a thing leading into this is like another lack, it's a lack of boundaries thing. And we talked about that too.
Yeah.
If there's no boundaries in the relationship, red flag, not going to work. Insecure, poor self-esteem, or people pleasing, these are like symptoms of codependency.
Mm-hmm.
Codependency in general, red flag.
Yeah.
Like just all around. If you don't know about codependency or never heard of it, please look it up after this. I don't want to get totally into it, but like um, me being insecure or him being his insecurities or both of our poor self-esteem, this is on both sides of the aisle, or people pleasing behavior on both sides of the aisle is going to tank a relationship very quickly, or you're going to start getting into like the toxic realms of, again, codependency and relationships and things like that. A people pleaser is just a liar. You're lying to yourself because you're doing everything you can to make the other person happy, and you're not considering what makes you happy in the moment at all. You're just
Yeah.
like, you're lying to
Well,
yourself.
also, people pleasing is one of the greatest forms of manipulation.
Yep,
You are manipulating everyone around you so that you are comfortable.
exactly.
That is sick and twisted. But also, like, people don't understand.
No, they
And
don't.
so, like, it's one thing if you know what you're doing. Like, there
Yeah.
are narcissists that know what they're doing
Yeah.
sometimes.
A lot of the times, people pleasing is a trauma response.
Yes.
And it's a part of the fawn response. But again, there comes a point where, we understand that other people have healing to do. But if they're not in a growth mindset to where they can grow with you and they can stop exuding these behaviors and start the healing and, grow together as people, because we talked about this in the relationships of free will. Like
Mm-hmm.
relationships are a huge part of our journey on this planet.
Yeah.
And so we're supposed to be learning and growing with one another.
Everyone is a lesson that
Right,
you need.
exactly.
Everyone.
Everybody's a lesson. A lot of the times, relationships are really not even for the other person. They're like for you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Do you know
in the healthiest way, yes.
Yeah, in the healthiest way.
Yeah.
So yeah, look up, codependency and symptoms of that, signs of that, and things like that. And I was codependent for a very long time, and a lot of people with addiction issues also exude codependency as well. So that's another reason. Aside from just addiction in general, they're also bringing with them codependent behaviors as well. So another red flag of mine is, this one's tried and true, bringing up old mistakes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, like if you
Keeping score.
keeping score, yeah,
Yes.
that's
No.
a
Mm-mm.
big red flag. If things have been, obviously worked out, people have made amends, and we're moving on, and it's like for no reason they're bringing up like past mistakes or things that you've done wrong in the past, like
Yeah.
red flag.
Yeah. One of my favorite things, my favorite parts of scripture is love holds no account of wrongs done.
Yep.
Like, that's just how it is.
Oh, that's another red flag.
What?
Like, I mean, all of us as humans, we do conditionally love, but we want to try to get as close to unconditional love with our partner as we possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
So like if a red flag would be like if something's gone wrong, withholding love. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, oh, now you're on my shit list, so I'm not going to be appreciating you or being grateful for you or honoring you or anything like that. It's just honestly, I call it, this is nothing against men, but it's man-child behavior or it's woman-child behavior. You know what I mean? It's childish behavior in general.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, oh, we're fighting right now, so I don't love them anymore.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
not
it's
true.
like that's ridiculous. It's like I can
So
still
dumb.
love you, but I don't love your actions. Like it's like almost like being able to separate like the art from the artist, the message from the messenger. It's just being mature enough to realize like, okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Couple more here. Not apologizing or playing victim. That goes along with like what you were saying about not honoring your own energy,
not taking responsibility.
Yeah. You also went into like how something is clearly someone's fault and they're like doing everything they can to like make sure it's not their fault.
To look like the victim.
Yeah, playing the victim. There's also martyrdom as well. It's like putting themselves in self-sacrificing positions. So red flag would be like somebody is going to clean up the entire house so they can then hold that over your head.
Yeah, like I did this for you.
Like I did all of these things for you, and again, that goes into conditional love. It goes into having too high expectations of somebody else. Like I've done all of these things for you, now you have to do these things. It's like, well, I gave you a $200 gift card for your birthday. What did you get me? It's like, okay, like,
yeah,
maybe gift giving isn't their love language. Like, let's be a little bit more empathetic, like opening up, talking about these. That's why communication's got to be at the base of every relationship.
Every single one.
Yeah, I did that a lot, is using myself as the standard. That's a red flag. I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
Like, you can't use yourself as the standard, like to judge other people. Well, I did all these things, so why aren't they doing that for me? Me and Chosen were talking about that before the show started. You know what I mean? So everybody's different. You can't use yourself as the standard. And that's it, because I put the last one there as not being able to be alone. I talked about that.
You did talk about that one already. We just went through so many. My mind is swirling.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, not in a bad way. I'm just like, wow, look at all these red flags that like we're aware of. Like, praise God.
Yeah.
I mean,
you got any final thoughts?
Do you have any final thoughts? Is like, oh, it's tough in these streets, y'all.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. No, but really it is.
Relationships are hard.
Relationships are hard. Give yourself a break if, like, if you're having a hard time finding someone, like, there's a healthy mindset where you're like, okay, like maybe I'm not crazy. Maybe like, we are a wounded people. We are a culture that is, healing, and we need to give ourselves credit where we're like, it didn't feel right. We don't just want to like say it's everyone else. Like, look at yourself and own your energy. Be responsible if you have issues. But I don't know. Maybe this could bring some clarity and some healing and some relief from heartache. Maybe understanding why certain things didn't work out in the past. Maybe giving understanding to things you didn't previously understand. Obviously, duh, if it's giving understanding, but you know what I mean. I want you to be able to listen to this and be like, you know what? Like, I wasn't crazy for thinking this was a problem. Or, you know what? I recognize that I do that. I'm going to make it a thing where I try not to do that.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to go home to my partner and just let them know, hey, I want to make sure that we are able to have open communication at all times. Like, even in the middle of fighting, I want you to be able to feel like you can open up to me and know that I'm not going to throw something at you. And regardless of who is right, like, I want to hear what you're feeling, like things like that. Okay. I'm always wanting to move towards healing and wholeness and everything. And this is not a do and do not list or a reject list. This is these are things that are important to be mindful of. And if people are mindful of them and moving towards wholeness and healing, and they're putting in that work, they're willing to be in a growth mindset, then, you know, some of these things you can work with. But again, yeah.
Got one last thought.
Okay.
In one of the Buddhist philosophy books I read, I only read Thich Nhat Hanh, great Buddhist monk. He's pretty famous. You can look him up. Anyway, I know one of his books, he was like talking about relationships and things like that. And he said, you know, when you're angry with your loved one, I want you to think like, take this problem and think about deeply, where will it be 300 years from now? You know?
Yeah.
Where are you guys going to be 300 years from now?
Is it really important?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, because we really do get caught up in our egos and caught up in anger and, you know, not wanting to back down from a situation because the anger sometimes can feel really good in a sick way. Or maybe we're bored in the relationship, which should have been a red flag to begin with, but now we're causing trouble for no reason.
And also sometimes we're picking fights. Like, listen, sometimes we need healing and we're picking fights because we're not feeling valued, appreciated, wanted, loved, invited.
Exactly.
And we need to recognize that within ourselves.
Yeah.
And so maybe ask yourself, what is the actual issue here? Like you said, you get more of the energy that you feed. And so is it worth having these fights? Is it worth, you know, some things, you know, that whole choose your battles thing.
Yeah.
I never really liked that phrase for some reason, but it's making a whole lot more sense the older I get.
Oh, yeah. Pick your battles.
Yeah.
That's a huge one.
Yeah.
100%.
So anyways, okay, guys. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Sending you so much love, so much positive energy. And I hope that whether you're single, partnered, divorced, wherever you're at in life, married happily, living your best abundant, healed and whole life, that you've just enjoyed this time with us. And we'd love to hear your thoughts. So feel free to get at us on social media and tell us what's going on. If you need to reach either one of us or get a reading or a healing session done, you can go to christianwitchhtx.com or luxintuitivetherapy.com.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I guess that's it.
Wherever you're at this Valentine's Day and whoever you're with, raise your standards.
Raise your standards.
We all need to collectively raise our standards. That solves a lot of problems.
In the most humble way. You're so right.
Yeah.
I know.
Like, stop settling.
I just pictured us in like a group setting with friends being like, okay, so we need to raise our standards.
Yeah. I have to tell that to my girls all the time. You need to raise your standards.
We do. I need to raise my standards too. But like, honestly, it's so hard.
Stop putting up with shit. Stop accepting crap from others.
Exactly. You get more of the energy you feed.
That's right.
And we're going to be going over love magic soon too. So if you want to manifest the right people, and now that you know how to identify the wrong people,
oh gosh, you're gonna have such a trip.
Oh, you're gonna have a lot of fun with this one. I got some good stuff up my sleeve.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye, guys.